positive 3. Okay, first one, if you want to simplify, you know that it's a y on both, so you can pull a y out and you'll have y parentheses y plus 2. Same thing for the denominator, you can pull a y out, you'll have y parentheses y plus 9. So the y's cancel and you have your answer, which is y plus 2 divided by y plus 9. On this next one, what you need to do is you need to factor the denominator. It's in the form of an AC method. So I put it over here so that we can break it down. 15 times 4 will give us 60. And we need to find two numbers that multiply to give us 60 that add to give us 16. Well, that's 10 and 6. So when we split it up, we're going to have 15x squared plus 10x plus 6x plus 4. And we factor by grouping, so we group it up because plus sign is already in the middle. And the first one, 15 and 10, they share 5, so we can pull out a 5x and we'll be left with, you can pull a 5x out and what you'll have left is you'll have a 3x plus 2, and on the second parentheses you can pull a 2 out and what you'll have left is 3x plus 2. So in both terms you can pull a 3x plus 2 out and you'll have left, which is 5x plus 2. So now that we have that settled, we come back here and we're going to have 3x plus 2 at the top, but the bottom factors into 3x plus 2 times the 5x plus 2. And remember, whatever's on top will cancel with what's on bottom, so the 3x plus 2's will cancel and you'll end up with 1 over 5x plus 2. The first one, they want to ask you what will make the denominator 0. First thing you have to do is factor it. Well, the top, I know I can pull a 3 out, so I have a 3 parentheses y minus 3. The bottom, that's the difference of squares. You got that squared, a squared minus b squared. So it's going to end up being y plus 9 and y minus 9. So what will make the denominator 0 here, or make this problem undefined, is basically when y is 9 or negative 9. So two numbers will make it 0. On here, the second problem, they want you to factor it. So you will still do the AC method, which will be 9 times negative 8. So that'll give you negative 72. And you have to find two numbers that will multiply to give you negative 72 and add to give you positive 6. Well, I know 12 times 6 is 72. So it'll be a negative 12 times a positive, positive 12 times a negative 6, since the middle is already positive. So you split that up, because remember this is AC method. So it's going to be plus 12z minus 6z, and that'll minus 8. So you do this by factoring by grouping, which you group these two and you group these two. Well, the first group, 9 and 12, they have a common denominator of 3 inside of them. Common factor of 3. So you pull a 3 out, 3z, and what you're going to end up with is another 3z plus 4. And the second one, you want to pull out a negative 2 because that's what relates with 6 and 8. So you're going to pull out a negative 2, and what you're going to have is a 3z plus 4. So out of the two terms, you can pull out 3z plus 4, and what you will have left is the 3z minus 2. This problem here, let's say you have a rectangle where the length is 3 more than the width, and the area of the rectangle is 180. What is the width? Well, in order to find the width, you have the area and you have the length. You don't have the width. You can just call the width W. So area, by formula of area, is length times width. So you'll take the length, which is 3 plus W, multiply that times the width, and that will give you the area of 180. So what you'll have is you'll have a 3W plus W squared equals 180. And when you rearrange this, you'll have W squared plus 3w. When you bring the 180 to the other side, it'll be a negative 180, and that'll be equal to 0. So, since you don't have a number in front of w, what you need is you need to find two numbers that are multiplied to give you a negative 180 and add to give you a positive 3. So these two numbers you're looking for are only a difference of 3 apart from each other. Well, I know that 12 times 15 will give me a negative 180. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for something that'll give me negative 180 but also give me positive 3. So that means the bigger number have to be positive. So that's going to be 15. And so it's going to be minus 12. So my two answers are w plus 15 times w minus 12 equals 0. So when you solve this, you're going to have w plus 15 equals 0 and w minus 12 equals 0. So this will give you w equals negative 15, which is not possible to have a negative width, or w equals positive 12. So the width is going to be positive 12. They want you to solve this using a zero factor property, which means if you have two things multiplied equaling 0, then you set both of them to 0. So you have x plus 1 6 equal to 0, and you have x minus 3 5 equal to 0. Same thing for the other side. You'll have x minus 0.6 equals 0, and x plus 0.3 equals 0. So solving for 0 is just moving it to the other side. So you end up having x equal negative 1 6 and x equals positive 3 over 5 here. Over here you have x equals positive 0.6, moving it to the other side, changes the sign, and x equals negative 0.3. So your two answers here are negative 1 6, positive 3 5, 0.6, negative 0.3. Okay, they want you to factor this completely. Remember the formula, a squared minus b squared. It's going to be a plus b times a minus b. So the goal is to try to make it look like the formula. This, you can make it look like the formula if you call it 7y squared squared minus 5 squared. So it's going to be 7y squared minus 5 multiplied times 7y squared plus 5. And you're done with that one. Over here, you have x squared squared minus 1 squared. So plugging it into the formula, it's going to be x squared minus 1 multiplied times x squared plus 1. Well, you still have another formula because this 1 can be squared also. So this one will end up being x squared minus 1 squared. So it's going to be x minus 1 times x plus 1. And then you bring this one down and you're going to have x squared plus 1. Okay, if you want to figure out if either one of these are perfect squares, or what they call a trinomial square, what you have to do is, one way is to use the formula. But if you don't want to use the formula, which is something extra that you really don't have to learn, you can just factor it. So factoring this, you know you're going to have two parentheses. So what you need is two numbers to multiply to give you negative 25 and add to give you a negative 10. Well, negative 25 is negative 5 times positive 5, or negative 25 times 1. So neither one of those, negative 5 times positive 5, will add to give you a negative 10, nor will negative 25 times positive 1 add to give you a negative 10. So this will be no, it's not a perfect square. It doesn't even factor nicely. Looking at this one, you want to ask yourself, okay, what two numbers multiply to give you 100 but add to give you 20? Well, those two numbers are 10. You have x plus 10, because 10 times 10 is 100, and 10 plus 10 is 20. Because these are both identical, this is a trinomial square. And the answer to this one would be yes. And the square will look like x plus 10 to the second power.